Let's go to work. This time in Scott's Garage, we're going to retrofit a cradle that I built more than 30 years ago. On this episode, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be retrofitting an old cradle. I built what's called like the Longfellow's cradle. It's a historic design. I didn't come up with the design. And I think I even, if I remember properly from 30 years ago, I think I even had plans, like full-scale drawings, so I could just trace the things out and cut them out to size. I don't think I had to calculate all the angles of this. So I built it from a plan of a traditional design, a cradle that sits on the ground, and it had these rockers on it, and many people used it in our family. To name a few, I think Matthew, Lauren, Samantha, and a bunch of other young people. And now those young people are having children of their own. The cradle traveled around to all different places in the country and to different houses and things. And eventually, a few years ago, it ended up here, back here, and I just put it up in the attic and forgot about it. And then now that we have a new baby coming in the family, I said, yeah, sure, we can use this. It's great. But there's a catch. They don't want a cradle that sits on the ground with these rockers and then they have to lean way over. They want something elevated. So I thought, that's a bit of a challenge, but I think I came up with a design, and I'll show you some photos of it. And I got some wood, went to Home Depot, got some wood, and I think we're going to proceed with retrofitting this cradle. You can see handcrafted, 1995, so 31 years ago I made this. It's all out of mahogany, solid. And like I said, I made it from plans. I didn't come up with all this, and it's a traditional design. You can see some spider webs here on it. And what we're going to do is I'm going to make like an elevated stand with a couple of feet, one on each side. And then it has verticals coming up here, and then like a pivot point about here and here. I calculated about 10 inches up. Seemed to be about the right pivot point to put the majority of the mass below the pivot point so that we don't get a topple over. And I made myself a little mock-up here of how it's going to pivot, like that. And so we'll have one here and then a double on the L's, and maybe a washer in between, and then the thing can just kind of pivot like that. So that's the idea. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but let's build it and find out. I have a couple of calculations to make for this L. There's going to be two L's, and these are the L's that are going to go like here, and then underneath. And so I have a few calculations to make still before I can complete this, but I think that's what we're going to start with, is the two L's that go on the ends, and we'll do that coming up right now. pretty good. You know, for all the people that don't care for Courtney Love, probably for a good reason, she does have some banger songs. The question that I have is, how can somebody not write a good song for years and years and have a band, and then all of a sudden she meets Kurt, and all of a sudden she's got all these great songs and releases super great album with all kinds of cool songs. So then Kurt dies and she never writes another good song again. So no good songs, meets Kurt, writes a ton of really good songs. Kurt passes, never writes another good song. Did she really write those songs? Or maybe did she have some help? I think she has kind of a history of that. And it's not just Kurt. I think there were some other folks, Billy Corrigan and other folks like that she kind of commandeered to help her with her music a bit. So I think that's my theory anyway. Let me know what you think. Early the next morning. All right, so it's the next day. We made quite a bit of progress yesterday. I'm really happy with what we did. We did a lot of glue ups and things like that. So let's take them out of the clamps and proceed. We're working on our L's, the interface between the cradle and the rest of the assembly. We also did some work on the feet. So while this part was drying, I started working on this right here. That's what this is. So we can take that out of the clamps right now. What I think I'm going to do is probably layer this with another piece on top here, just because this is going to be carrying the whole weight of the entire assembly. But these are the parts that we were really working on. So a couple of things I want to do today is I think I want to put some screws in these, and then we need to cut this radius on both of the pieces. Okay, so the idea is just to reinforce this joint because it is kind of the major junction of this whole assembly. But the problem is that I got to be real careful with how deep I go with this. I don't want to go through. So if I just kind of eyeball it right here, and we want these flush because this is actually going to be a pivoting surface. So I need these to be very, very flush. All right. And that's it. And then we'll just do the same thing with this one here. Okay, this is my big chunky sanding block. Just kind of make a little chamfer on there. No big deal. Don't have to make it perfect. Okay, so what I did is I put center mark there so I can line these up. This is going to be the main foot, and the main spar is going to come right down into here. Yeah, it's a cool name. We'll call it a spar.